Anyone who dares me will suffer in pain. Be warned and never return here."
Okwuchi barked at some children she found playing near the entrance of her compound. In Atama village, under the scorching sun, life carried on as it always did, slow, steady, and full of whispers. Among the whispers, one name carried an air of fear: Okwuchi. She was a woman of anger, bitterness, and cruelty. Everyone knew she was mean, but no one knew the depths of her wickedness, for she kept her darkest secret well hidden. Okwuchi's hatred was mostly directed at the village's children. They knew better than to venture near her compound, for she forbade them from even touching a single mango that fell from the trees in her yard. She would rush out with her cane, hissing like a snake, and the children would scatter like frightened birds. One sunny afternoon, a small boy named Chiki had wandered too close to her fence. His little fingers reached out to pluck a ripe golden mango that had fallen to the ground. Before he could grasp it, Okwuchi's voice rang out, sharp as a knife. "Cheek," she shrieked, "touch that mango and I will make sure your legs never run again." Chiki froze, his heart thudding in his chest. He ran away in fear, leaving the mango behind. The villagers shook their heads, but none dared to confront Okwuchi. They were afraid of her temper, and even more so of the strange happenings around her. At night, the village was filled with stories. Around the fire, old men would talk in low tones about how Okwuchi's neighbors seemed to suffer ill luck. A man who once had a strong hand for farming now spent his days in a drunken stupor, his life in ruins. A maiden named Nena, once the pride of the village, was now shunned by all suitors for reasons no one could explain. Some whispered that Okwuchi had cursed them, but no one knew for sure. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a woman named Amara confronted Okwuchi after her chicken had wandered into Okwuchi's compound. Amara, bold and unafraid, marched right up to the old woman's door. "Okwuchi, enough is enough. My chicken is not your enemy, and you have no right to harm it," Amara shouted. Okwuchi stepped out of her house slowly, her eyes glinting with malice. "Amara, if you value your legs, you will never speak to me that way again," she hissed. "I will make sure that chicken never lays another egg." Amara faltered, fear creeping into her bones, and backed away. She knew better than to test Okwuchi's threats. But while the villagers feared her wrath, they did not know the true source of her power. Hidden deep within Okwuchi's hut was a clay pot, an evil pot. This was no ordinary pot. It held the destinies of those she had cursed. Men became useless drunkards, women remained single and rejected, and strong farmers found themselves crippled after unknowingly crossing Okwuchi's path. All of this because Okwuchi had stolen their destinies and imprisoned them within the pot. It was said that when someone offended her, she would sit quietly at night, muttering incantations over the pot, and by morning, the unfortunate soul would wake to a life changed for the worse. One fateful day, the villagers gathered in the square to discuss their troubles. Oge, a young girl known for her courage and kindness, sat listening to the elders. She had often wondered why so much misfortune had befallen her people. Her mother had always warned her to stay away from Okwuchi, but Oge could not shake the feeling that the old woman was the root of their problems. "We cannot live in fear forever," Oge spoke up. "Something must be done." The elders shook their heads, afraid, but Oge's words stayed with them, and fate, it seemed, had its own plans for Okwuchi. One morning, Okwuchi ventured into her farm, far from the village. She was bent over, weeding the earth, when a snake slithered out from the bushes. Before she could react, the snake struck, sinking its fangs into her ankle. Okwuchi screamed in pain, falling to the ground. She knew she was in trouble. The venom burned through her veins, and she knew she had little time. Desperation gnawed at her as she looked around, but no one was nearby. In her weakened state, she spotted Oge walking on a nearby path. Though pride boiled within her, she had no choice. "Oge," she called, her voice shaky. "Help me." Oge turned, startled to see Okwuchi lying on the ground. She hesitated, but then her natural kindness took over, and she ran to the old woman. "What happened?" Oge asked, her eyes wide with concern. "A snake," Okwuchi gasped. "It bit me. Go to my hut and bring me the pot on the shelf. Quickly, it will save me." Oge nodded and sprinted toward Okwuchi's compound. She had never been inside before, and was hesitant as she crossed the threshold of the house. The air inside was thick and heavy, and a strange chill ran down her spine. She spotted the shelf and reached for the only pot there. As her fingers grasped it, something felt wrong. The pot was cold and seemed to hum with an eerie energy, but there was no time to waste. She hurried back to the farm, clutching the pot. When Okwuchi saw the pot in Oge's hands, her face drained of color. "No, not that one," she shrieked. "Put it back." Oge froze, confused. "But you said to bring the pot." "Not this one. Put it back now." Okwuchi's voice rose in panic, her hand trembling as she pointed back toward her hut. But it was too late. In her shock, Oge fumbled the pot, and it slipped from her grasp. It hit the ground with a deafening crash, shattering into countless pieces. A strange wind seemed to rush from the broken pot, carrying with it cries and whispers. Okwuchi screamed, clutching her head. "No, no, what have you done?" The earth seemed to tremble beneath them as the souls trapped within the pot were released. The village drunkard, the shunned maidens, the crippled farmers, one by one, they felt a weight lift from their lives. The curse had been broken. But Okwuchi was not so lucky. As the pot shattered, her body began to decay. Her skin peeled away, revealing the evil that had rotted her from the inside out. She writhed on the ground, her face contorted in agony. Oge stepped back, horrified by what she was witnessing. What is happening to you?" she stammered. Okwuchi's voice was barely a whisper now. "The pot. I trapped them. They're destinies. They're free now." Tears welled in Oge's eyes. "Why did you do this? Why curse your own people?" Okwuchi's eyes flickered with regret, but it was too late for redemption. I was wrong. Forgive me." Oge, shaken but resolute, returned to the village with the news. The villagers gathered around Okwuchi and listened to her confess her wicked deeds. They were all shocked to learn that Okwuchi was behind some of the misfortune of men and women in their village. "There is no peace for the wicked," a village elder said. "You must surely pay for your wicked deeds." With a final breath, Okwuchi's body wrinkled and aged unrecognizably. The curse was lifted, and peace returned to the village of Atama. The people rejoiced as those who had suffered under Okwuchi's evil regained their strength, their hope, and their lives. From that day forward, Oge was hailed as a hero, and the villagers never forgot the lesson they learned, that kindness and courage can break even the darkest of spells. And as for Okwuchi, her name became a tale of caution, told to children to remind them of the power of evil and the greater power of good. The end.